You're watching EarthSky. I'm Deborah Byrd, and I'm here with EarthSky's Kelly Kizer Whitt, who's also a veteran meteor observer, and also with another meteor veteran, Robert Lunsford of both the American Meteor Society and the International Meteor Organization. Robert's 2008 book is called Meteors and How to Observe Them. Welcome, you guys.
Thank you very much.
So, Robert, the Perseid meteor shower, when and where should people look?
You can start looking tonight. They're active now. At the rate's only about 5 per hour during the morning hours, but that will pick up. And the shower will peak on Sunday night, Monday morning, August 11/12, when people from dark sky sites can see up to 50 or 60 an hour.
You were saying right before we came live that you've already been out looking. So you want to tell us a little about some of the great meteors you've seen already?
Certainly. I was basically out facing south looking for the Southern Delta Aquariids and the Capricornids, and I saw lots of those meteors, and occasionally you would see a really very fast Perseid shoot from over your shoulder, and you can definitely tell the difference because they're much faster and often brighter. So they're easy to tell apart and adds to the entertainment of the morning.
And just for our viewers that maybe aren't very versed on meteor showers, some people call them falling stars or shooting stars, but they're not really stars at all. You want to explain what actually a meteor is? Like, what are people actually looking at when they see a meteor?
When you see a meteor, it's actually a tiny little fragment, only a few millimeters across, that enters the atmosphere at a very fast speed. So they will basically vaporize in a flash of light, which looks like a streak from the ground, and it does look like a star that shoots across the heavens. But most of them are just very tiny. Occasionally, you will get objects as large as a softball and up, which will cause fireballs, which are the meteors that are brighter than anything in the sky except the sun and moon. And our main interest in fireballs is those are the only ones that have a chance of reaching the ground and providing scientists with clues to where they came from.
So, Robert, are there fireballs in the Perseid meteor shower? Aren't they mostly icy fragments?
Actually, there can be large icy fragments which do produce fireballs. So I would expect to see at least one fireball an hour during the maximum of the Perseids on Monday morning.
Wow.
And they can range anywhere from being slightly brighter than Venus, which is now entering the evening sky, and up to the brightness of the full moon and sometimes beyond. So it can really light up the heavens.
Say those dates again, Robert, of when people should watch, because I noticed a bunch of people just joined us. When
Well,
should we watch for the
the,
Perseid?
the main maximum is predicted to be Sunday night, Monday morning, which is August 11/12. And the best time to watch will be in the early morning hours on August 12th when the moon is set. We have a half moon that night, which will set around midnight for most folks. So once the moon's gone, the sky will be dark, and that's your opportunity to see the most activity. Now, if you watch right as the moon set, the Perseid radiant will be low in the northeast, which means the horizon will block quite a few of the meteors. The later you watch, the higher the radiant, and the more meteors you'll see. You'll be able to see them shoot in all directions.
Cool. So we have a question from a viewer, and that is, can you take a time lapse of the meteor shower for the Perseids?
Most certainly. I would go ahead and aim it toward the radiant so you can catch them shooting in any directions, and the stars will drift through your camera frame, but meteors will appear as a single streak. That's how you can tell them apart.
So the radiant, how can people find the radiant?
Well, the radiant is the apparent location in the sky where meteors shoot from. So the easiest way to pinpoint it is look toward the northeast any time of the night, because it's going to be in that direction all night long. And if you look in that direction, you'll be seeing meteors shooting upwards and right and left. And as the night goes on, you'll be able to even see them shoot downwards. So you actually don't need to know where the constellation of Perseus is. If you just face halfway up in the northeastern sky, you will tell that these meteors are all shooting from basically the same place.
Yeah, I have a memory of from when my kids were little that we were trying to watch the Perseids, and because I had little kids with me, we were out there not really too late. It was sort of like probably 10 or 11 in the evening, and there were meteors coming up from below the horizon.
That's very possible, yes.
It was very cool to see. And there were some that traveled along the horizon, so that radiant was just below the horizon, but it was shooting out those meteors in all directions, and they were shooting in ways that I had not realized they could go.
We call those Earth grazers because they don't penetrate very deep into the atmosphere. So they can just skim the outer region of the atmosphere. They last a long time, and the duration can be several seconds instead of the normal Perseid, which is a fraction of a second.
So sometimes I know they talk about Perseids, they leave trains. Could you explain to us a little, like, what is when we say train and we're talking about meteors, what is that exactly?
A train is a persistent, like a smoke trail in the sky. It's produced actually not from the meteor, but it ignites the gas, or I should say excites the gas of nitrogen and oxygen, and these will last after the meteor has disappeared. And often, if it's bright enough, you can see them change directions due to the upper atmospheric winds. And sometimes they'll coil like a snake. It looks very interesting.
I think sometimes some of us are looking for meteors, and we'll see one and we'll say, look over here. And the other people, when they look, they might not actually see the meteor, but they might still see the train that's left behind. So they're like, oh, you were lying.
Definitely.
There was one, I just missed it.
It's only the brighter meteors that produce trains, though.
So we have a question from Miss Marcian, who is saying, I have seen red and green colors. What minerals are those when you see colorful meteors, which the Perseids are very colorful. It's a particularly colorful shower.
They are colorful, but actually the Perseids are so swift, the colors produced are actually atmospheric gases such as nitrogen and oxygen, which produce red and green. Now, slow meteors like the Taurids or the Capricornids, now you'll actually see the mineral content. If you see green, that means it's high in nickel, yellow calcium, and red can be iron.
And so, but again, aren't those for the meteors that are more of the rocky and metallic type meteors, or are those for the icy meteors and showers?
Yeah, the icy ones, which are from comets, tend to be much faster, and therefore it's the atmosphere, not the actual composition of the meteor that produces the colors.
And we should probably mention what the Perseids is from. It's from Comet Swift-Tuttle. Do you want to talk a little about the comet?
That's correct. Comet Swift-Tuttle is one of the largest comets that circles the sun that we know of. It has an orbit of 133 years and last appeared in 1992. And at that time, the Perseid meteor shower was very strong, often producing several hundred an hour. The comet's moving away from us now, and recent rates for the Perseids have been downgraded a bit. Like I said, 50 to 60 at the most now, but still well worth watching.
Definitely. So we get, whenever there's a meteor shower, we get this kind of question. And Stranger on YouTube asked, will we be able to see the meteor shower in Colorado? So that type of question is very common. Can I see it in Colorado? Can I see it in Florida? Can I see it all these different places?
Yeah, I get those questions all the time. And these meteor showers can be seen over most of the Earth at basically the same time. The problem with the Perseids is areas north of 60 degrees north latitude are in daylight or twilight 24 hours. So those folks are out of luck. And folks in the southern half of the southern hemisphere, the radiant never rises for them. So therefore, they're out of luck too. They may catch a few shooting up from the horizon, but they'll only see 1 or 2 per hour compared to what we can see. Your best range of latitudes, probably between 25 and 35 north latitude. You have the best balance of longer nights and higher radiant.
Very nice. Can you tell us a little just about how you got into this field and where did your love of meteors come from?
You know, my parents say that my crib was next to the next to the window, and some of my first words were moon and stars. So I think it started very early, but I've always liked all facets of astronomy. Got my first telescope when I was probably 2nd grade, and I would pile benches up to look at stuff in the sky. And I'm still meteors is the easiest thing. You can go back, relax, and unwind. You don't need any expensive equipment, but every now and then you want to see details on the moon and the planets, so you have a telescope just in case. And it's so fascinating. But like I said, for most folks, meteor showers is just a great way to share a family outing under the stars.
Okay, we have a question from John Forrest on YouTube. He says, greetings from Ireland. Hopefully we get a break in the perpetual cloud here to get a good view. Any comments?
Yeah, unfortunately, there's areas that are prone to clouds, and even here in the Southwest, we have monsoons that often come up from Mexico and keep the sky cloudy most of August. So yeah, it's definitely a problem. But this is the only major shower that occurred during a nice warm weather. So if it's clear or clear nearby, I would make every effort to try to view it.
Yeah, and some people call this a double meteor shower because of the Delta Aquariids going on at the same time. So you must be seeing, at your latitude there in San Diego, you probably see a fair number of Delta Aquariids too.
That's very true. And what's funny, you can be facing south looking for Delta Aquariids and seeing Perseids come from behind you. And it's vice versa. During the Perseid maximum, you're looking at that shower and you'll see Delta Aquariids coming from the south behind you. So
right, there's 2 meteor showers going on.
That's right. Unfortunately, they don't peak exactly at the same time. So the Perseids are fairly weak during the Delta Aquariid maximum and vice versa.
Yeah, I know I used to, like here, I'm in Austin, Texas, and we get the clouds from the Gulf almost every night in the summer that roll in from the Gulf. That's about a couple hundred miles away, and by the time it gets to us, it's just about midnight. We want to start watching meteors. Those Gulf clouds roll in. So, but I did do most of my meteor watching out in West Texas when I worked for McDonald Observatory when I was younger, which is a big major observatory out in West Texas. And I know we would see lots of Delta Aquariids along with the Perseids. And you would see one over here, and then you would turn, and there'd be one going in a different direction, and you would know it was from a different shower.
Actually, most of the clouds in my area are caused by the cold water from the Pacific Ocean. And every night it'll reach the dew point, and these low clouds will come in and blanket everything up to about 3,000 feet. Well, luckily, I have mountains up to 6,000 feet, only a half hour away. So I can hop in my vehicle and drive up to the mountains, get above that cloud layer, which also blocks the light from San Diego. And you have dark skies and beautiful sky, beautiful view of the meteor shower.
It's awesome. So Dutch Oven Doins on YouTube probably wasn't here when you talked about this before, Robert, but wants to know, which direction should we be looking?
These meteors can actually be seen in all parts of the sky, but to see the most, I would concentrate on the quadrant from due north to due east. The Perseid radiant will be rising in that direction, and you can see Perseids shooting in all directions, at least during the morning hours after the moon is set. So The north to east direction is probably the best. If that happens to have a large mountain or a tree in the way, I would go ahead and face toward the east and maybe a little bit to the south. But Perseid meteors can be seen in all directions. So if one's bad, just try another one.
And if people do see meteors, if they want to share maybe their meteor count or report a fireball, can you tell them how they could do that at one of the websites?
Right. The websites of the American Meteor Society and the IMO, plus the Association of Lunar and Planetary Observers, which I belong to, all have report forms where you can click and fill in your information, and it'll go into a central database. And what we do is we check those reports, and we normally can get a good trajectory on each event and tell exactly where it went and any possibility of it dropping meteorites on the ground.
If anyone's never seen this part of the website, it's really cool. They'll have a map and they'll have these little people where they've reported they are, and you can see the direction. It looks like these little icons of people, and they're looking, so you can even picture like the direction that meteor took across the sky. So it is very helpful to see other people's reports, and also just for people who actually saw them, it's like you're always asking yourself, did anyone else just see that? Well, if you go to the website, you can see, yes, there are other people that saw that as well.
You can also read their comments too, which I always find interesting. And what's really interesting is when we get reports from Italy or France in another language, and thank goodness for Google Translate. It saves me a lot.
Yeah, the Portugal fireball was amazing. That was just a few months ago. And the videos from that, especially the ducks. Everyone loved the ducks that we saw in Passover. That was great.
That's cool. That was so nice. So Chris Chandra asked earlier, and I missed this one, what camera settings on a DSLR for catching a meteor time lapse?
It all depends on how bright your sky. If you're close to a city, you wanna leave it at no more than a minute, and maybe a speed of 1600 perhaps. And if you're in very dark skies, you can take probably 2 or 3 minute exposures without it starting to fog over. So in ISO setting, the 1600, and from 1 to 3 minutes, depending on how dark your sky is.
Okay, and Christine wants to know more about the AMS and IMO websites. So can you give us those web addresses?
Sure. The AMS is www.amsmeteors, all one word, .org, and the IMO is www.imo.net.
Okay, and so if someone needs to do a search, it's the American Meteor Society.
That will do it too.
International Meteor.
International Meteor, right.
Those two websites have lots and lots of stuff.
And yeah, we just try to make it clear how, where, when you can watch meteor observers. And the IMO currently has a section where you can submit reports. If you'd really like to get into the nitty-gritty of viewing meteors, you can record the brightness of them and the type of meteor. And what's neat is you don't have to be an IMO member. You can register for free and submit your report. It'll be included in a global analysis, plus your report will be saved, and you can just keep adding on. I have reports going back to 1988 on the register in there, and it helps me be organized.
That's so cool. So those are the reports like counts? Are they like meteor counts? Is that the main thing you're doing there?
Right. A count per hour normally. If we have exceptional activity, we suggest that you bin them into only 15-minute counts, because things can change very fast. And another important aspect is recording the brightness of them. Normally meteors are between magnitude 0 and 6, which is the faintest you can possibly see. And that helps us too, because The Perseids are actually made up of several streams, and they have different brightnesses due to the size of the meteors in space. So if you can supply us with magnitudes, that would help tremendously.
So what do you mean by streams? That the Perseids are made up of several streams?
Each time the parent comet of the Perseids comes through the inner solar system, it leaves a stream of particles. Well, not, being 133 years apart, they're not quite the exact same path as the previous one. So during the Perseid maximum, we may pass through several of these streams dating back to the year 1000. So it those are what often produce outbursts, and sometimes not such an outburst, but we can definitely tell if we pass through a stream of large particles, because we'll see fireballs all of a sudden. So that's what's really interesting. Same thing with the upcoming Leonids in the 2030s. There's that one only passes through the inner solar system every 33 years. So there's all kinds of streams for that one. So that's what we hope to get some more meteor observers out there to help us study that shower more.
No, wait, which shower is this? Say that.
So the Leonid meteor shower, which is visible every year, but currently it's only producing 15 an hour. During the time when the parent comet returns, which will be in the year 2032, the activity increases.
And then the Leonids are another one that people ask about a lot, because that shower is the one that produced some big meteor storms.
That's correct.
Past year. Tell us about those.
We don't expect storms in 2030s because it doesn't appear we're going to pass close enough to any of the streams. But still, we're seeing 15 an hour now. We should see up to maybe 200 or 300 then during the maximums of the Leonids. So that's something we look forward to. And what's interesting is we get a lot more reports during activity such as the Leonids. And we noticed a big drop off last time after the Leonids quit producing storms. So it's a big interest time for meteor shower observers when these are peaking.
M.E. Jane on YouTube wants to know where here in Southern California are some of the best places to escape the city glow now. And if you don't mind that I answer that, Robert, EarthSky.org, which is EarthSky's website, has this great page on it called Best Places to Stargaze. And that was a crowdsourced page where people from all over the world came and told us their favorite places to stargaze. And you can go to EarthSky.org and click in on the top menu bar, you'll see stargazing. Click into that area and you'll see that map, and you can move it around to the entire globe and see best places to stargaze all over the place.
Right.
The person who's asking about Southern California, go to that map, and everybody else out there, go to that map, because it's a really wonderful resource for people who want to know dark sky places near them.
Right. I personally go to the Laguna Mountains, which are just east of San Diego, and very dark and usually clear. And for folks further north in the LA area, the mountains to the north and east, such as Big Bear, would be wonderful spots to watch the shower from.
Oh, Big Bear, yeah, and that's where they do the Riverside Telescope Makers Conference. Are they still doing that, the Riverside?
You know what? I think it's actually not, hasn't been going on for a few years now.
Yeah.
Insurance and things like that for the land, and it just got too technical, I believe, unfortunately.
Yeah. So that was one of the three big star parties that happened in the U.S. One, Stellafane, which was on the East Coast, and then there was the Riverside Star Party, which was on the West Coast, and then there's the Texas Star Party, which is great because it's in a really dark sky. In fact, it's near my observatory. So the two of them are still going on, the one in Texas and the one. Yeah, but they're not during the Perseid Meteor show. I know the one in Texas is sort of May or early June.
I think most folks would drag their telescopes out and like to look at faint fuzzies and not be bothered with them being meteors. But you know what? I've been out looking at the Perseid meteor shower, and there'll be folks with their telescopes, and I'm sitting there saying, you know, you have all this time to look at these faint fuzzies. You should be concentrating on something that's only going to last a few nights.
Right. Well, you got a little bias going there about meteors, I think, Robert.
You're right.
Yeah, you love them. And I love them too. They're so wonderful. It's so wonderful to see. And I wanted to ask you about that. And that is, do you have a favorite memory of seeing a meteor shower that you could share with us?
It was probably the 2001, let's go, 2001 Leonid display, which I observed from Mount Lemmon, which is north of Tucson. We were expecting another storm, and we had people from all over the world up there that night, and some of them were worried about some high clouds moving in, and I said, oh, sit tight, you're going to just drive east and be in the middle of them still. And luckily I was right, and we were seeing rates of well over 1,000 an hour right around 2 o'clock.
Wow.
And I actually saw the 1999 Leonid storm from Spain, and that one was actually more intense, but it only lasted for about an hour. It's like someone turned the shower on full blast and then slowly. The one in 2001 was intense for a good hour, but it kept going all night long. And I was just exhausted because I was trying to record all these meteors. And finally, in the last hour, I just put this recorder away and just lay back and enjoyed it.
That's awesome. And when it's intense for just an hour, that means that Earth has hit just a little pocket of dense stuff in
That's
that
correct.
stream. Yeah, that's cool. And then when it's intense for many hours, that means it's hit a bigger pocket.
Right.
So,
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Kelly, you had a good meteor story too that we were talking about before we went live. Can you tell us?
Yeah, I think it kind of speaks to the nature of meteors. I was out once. Of course, it was the Perseids because I live in Wisconsin, so that's the one you're going to focus on is the summer one. And we were just in the backyard, my husband and I. We were looking up at the sky for maybe an hour, looking for Perseids. I think we saw about 10. And then a couple days later, I talked to my neighbor who lived 2 doors down, and I had said I was out. He's like, oh, I was out too. I didn't see anything. And I said, well, when were you out? And he said the same time period. And I think it's just like sometimes if you're looking this way, it could happen over here. And it helped a little bit that I had another person with me. So like he could see some while I could see some. Well, if you're alone, you don't have that person to yell out meteor, so you know to look. But yeah, the meteor showers, even if you be watching the same meteor shower and see different rates from 2 doors down.
Yeah, and then of course you have to keep yourself awake in those wee hours, which for me would be really hard at this point. So we have a question from the armchair journalist in Australia, apparently. Is it visible in Australia, in Victoria, the lower part of the continent?
probably not. I think it's visible for northern Australia, where the radiant just skims the northern horizon just before dawn. But from points further south, I'm afraid you're out of luck.
Aw. Okay, awesome. Kelly, Robert, anything else you want to tell the folks?
Certainly, if the night of maximum happens to be clouded out and the next night clear, by all means go out. The moon may set an hour later, but the activity will still be worth it. It normally drops off by about 50% each night after maximum, but lately we've had a sudden burst of activity about 36 hours after the predicted maximum. Now, it didn't happen last year, but the previous 2 years it did. We don't know. It's probably an unknown trail of particles again. But if you're clouded out on maximum, keep watching.
And
You never know.
don't the Perseids rise kind of gradually to a peak so that if you went out
That is correct.
every morning prior to the peak, you could expect to see more? Is that your dog?
That's our dogs. Ugh. It's a slow rise to maximum, and then well, it's just, it's pretty much a bell curve. So it is visible before and after maximum activity.
Robert Lunsford of the American Meteor Society and the International Meteor Organization. Thank you. EarthSky's Kelly Whitt, thank you both so much for joining us today and answering people's questions. We're EarthSky, and I'm Deborah Byrd, and we live stream every Monday at this same time. So next week, our guest will be the bad astronomer, Phil Plait. He's going to be answering the always interesting question, what's Phil thinking about now? Thank you, everybody, for watching.
My pleasure.
Thanks, everybody.